Ahead and get started. To kick off our prepared speeches, Mark Stelner has been a Toastmaster for 6 months. He joined Toastmasters in order to become a Table Topics International Heavyweight World Champion Grandmaster Black Belt guy.
Yeah.
See that tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today, Mark will be giving his 7th speech, Research Your Topic, from the Competent Communicator Manual. And the objective of this speech is to present a topic using specific facts and details gathered during researching the speech topic. The title of his 5 to 7 minute speech is New York City for First Timers. Please join me in welcoming Mark.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. We'll save the show tunes for later. So, I'm going to New York later this week, and so it occurred to me a great research topic would be, or a great topic to discuss is New York for the first time. New York's a huge place, right? There's so much to do, so much to see. It's a world-class city. And so if you're going there for the first time, it can be pretty overwhelming because you're kind of like, what should I do? Where should I eat? What should I see? That sort of thing. Has anyone here been to New York before? Has anyone actually lived in New York? Okay. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to go through kind of the orientation, kind of how New York's laid out. I'm going to talk a little bit then about some of the main things to see, some of the places to eat, some of the places to drink, things like that. So just a few notes though. I'm kind of assuming you're only there for maybe an extended weekend, right? So 4 or 5 days, because that's about how long I'm going. So I figured, but most people that's about what they're going to be there. Obviously if you're there for longer, you can see more. You're going to notice I'm sticking kind of to the Manhattan area just because, again, that's where a lot of this stuff is localized. So if you're a fan of some of the other boroughs, I'm sorry. And the other thing is obviously a lot of the stuff I'm going to name is kind of touristy. So I know some people are like, the locals tell you, oh, don't go to this, all that stuff. But if you've never been there, I feel like you should go see it. It's like if you went to Paris and you didn't see the Eiffel Tower, people would be like, well, what? Why? People go to St. Louis, where I'm originally from, I tell them go to the Arch. I've seen it a dozen times. If you've never been there, you should go see it. So that's where I'm coming from. So here's a layout of New York. So New York's split into 5 boroughs. So you have, 4 boroughs. So you have Manhattan right here, your Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, and then Staten Island, and then it's not a borough, but Long Island kind of extends out this way. So you have your airports there, and each borough kind of has its own unique feel to it. Locals sometimes can tell where you're from based on how you act or how certain things present themselves, and along with that, certain assumptions are made about you if you're a local and you're from one of these areas and you meet another person from one. The easiest way to get around New York is definitely either subway or on foot. You don't want to really, if you're going there, you don't really need to rent a car, especially if you're staying somewhere in the downtown area. You can get around fine with a Metro Pass, or just like I said, walking, because it's kind of fun to explore and see different sites within the city just walking down the street. They also now have kind of the bike sharing program where you can rent out a bike, and then there's different locations around the city, and you can drop your bike off there, and it's a little bit easier maybe to get around that way. Just, again, be careful. You got to watch for oncoming traffic and that sort of thing. So I tried to lay this kind of out in map form just because I felt that was the easiest way to go about doing it. So on the cultural side of things, or from museums, New York has a lot of big museums, right? And so the ones I kind of hit the big ones. So you have the Metropolitan Museum of Art, also known as the Met. They have kind of a world-class collection there, right? So they have all kinds of stuff. They have a huge amount of Egyptian art there. They have Rembrandts. They have Veneers. It's, like I said, it's one of the world-class or first-class art collections in the world, and it's huge. So you could probably spend more than just a day there, but there's a lot to see. They also have art from different periods of time and different antiquities and things like that. The Guggenheim, probably more known for its architecture. Frank Lloyd Wright helped design it, the building, but they also have kind of a neat art there as well. You have the Museum of Modern Art, which is also known as the MoMA. And that's more for you if you're more into contemporary modern art type stuff. They have some Van Goghs and Picasso, and then they have all kinds of industrial design, kind of funky things like this. And then down in the bottom, I've never been to it, but the Whitney Museum of Art, I've heard is like an American art. I think it's a more recent one. And I've heard they have actually some neat collections and some stuff to see, a lot of contemporary art as well. And then I put Cloisters, again, I've never been there, but I've heard good things. It's been owned, or I think it's by the same people who run the Met, I believe. So they have some neat stuff you should check out there. So these are some of the, like I said, you should, if you're there for, you should at least hit one of the museums if you're there for a couple days. So moving on, that brings us to things to see. Again, there's a ton of stuff to see, right? But you can only hit so many things. And again, I'm sticking to kind of some of the touristy sites. But so you have Central Park, which you've all heard about. It's a kind of a nice park, a big park rather, in the middle of the city, kind of a calm from the craziness around it. And there's Tavern on the Greens there, a place to eat, and there's different places to see, and sometimes just hang out and relax. You can go on bike rides around the park. Further down, you have Top of the Rock. It's a observation deck where you can see all of Central Park. You can see all of downtown. You could go up in the Empire State Building. I think Top of the Rock could be a better choice just from the standpoint of because you can actually see the Empire State Building when you're looking at the rest of the skyline, versus in the Empire State Building, you're cutting out one of the big main buildings in the skyline, right? And then further down, you go to Broadway and Times Square. Times Square, it's a big area with a lot of people, but the illumination of all the lights, or the illuminated lights, it's something really to see. You've seen it in movies and things like that. It's just a neat place to see. Broadway to go see a show. And then down in the corner, the 9/11 Memorial, impactful event and a really important thing and sad part of our history, but a neat place to see. You have Wall Street down here, the Charging Bull, the New York Stock Exchange, Liberty Island with Statue of Liberty, and Ellis Island. So you see where the immigrants all came over many years ago, and there's a lot of history there. And then I put the Brooklyn Bridge in here just because it's kind of a neat bridge to walk across, because then you kind of get the view of the downtown skyline. And then finally, places to eat and drink. So it's hard to kind of narrow that down because there's a lot of famous chefs. They have a huge concentration of 2 and 3 and star Michelin chefs, so the sky's the limit. But I put a couple donut places on here. That's H&H. I'm sorry, no, that's Donut Plant. I've heard good things. There's famous chefs like, what's his name? Mario Batali. He has Babbo. It's supposed to be really good. This is a place called the Campbell Apartments. It's in Grand Central Terminal. It's like a bar that's supposed to be, it's in this little lounge area within the terminal, and it's kind of a neat area. The Press Lounge overlooks the water. It's really neat. Katz's Deli, When Harry Met Sally, it's kind of a famous place, but the food is good there too. And then I put Grimaldi's down here, and the River Cafe. I've never been to the River Cafe, but Grimaldi's obviously is very famous for some of their pizza. And when you're in New York, obviously that's one of the things is, donuts, but bagels, the New York bagel and New York slice, some of the things that you should sample. So all in all, so make sure, so when you go, you kind of now have a general layout of the town, where everything is, how to get around. Like I said, don't drive, stick to the subway and walking, and get out and see the touristy stuff, but also just explore, go walking, see some of the different sites. And that's all I got. Ms. Tilton.
Thank you for your speech.